Given the continuing budget battles in Washington, I suppose it's no surprise that there are some very nervous people around in the healthcare field, particularly relating to something called GME. You may know it as graduate medical education, and it remains kind of on one of the critical lists of the budget. And I'm here talking to Dr. C.A. Sivaram, who is a professor of medicine, vice chief of cardiovascular medicine, and from the University of Oklahoma, where you're the associate dean for continuing professional development. Tell me about GME at first in terms of where it's at financially in this rather bizarre time we find ourselves in.
Well, there are some real risks involved with GME funding. As you know, the federal subsidies of graduate medical education through Medicare and Medicaid constitute the biggest support of GME for universities. And what's happened in the last several years is a slow escalation in the cost of GME. And on the top of that, there is a big amount of debate on the scope and the size of continuing federal subsidies of GME. You know, this is very concerning to the academic medical centers because this involves trainees starting from the intern level straight out of medical school to the subspecialties where our fellows are placed.
Now, we have more medical schools in the last few years than we had, say, in the mid-2000s. Where are we in terms of keeping up with that growth, let alone adding in anything for inflation or the other doctors who are coming along?
I'll have to say not at a good place because in 2006 it was felt that there will be increased physician demands and everybody in their good wisdom decided to graduate more medical students from existing medical schools, then open new medical schools, and now we are actually seeing the effect of that in not having enough number of GME funded residency positions for new graduates from U.S. medical schools. This is very unique, never has happened before. Last year was the first time when over 500 medical students graduating from U.S. medical schools were unable to match into a GME-supported residency position. So this is actually huge and talks to a little bit about somewhat of a miscalculation as to what needs to be done to accommodate the new graduates into residency positions so that they can provide care to the community.
Well, we're here in Las Vegas for the CV Summit, an ACC meeting that they have every year, and I must say it's always fascinating. What specifically are you talking about in terms of how do we solve this problem, and particularly if we end up getting even more cuts, seeing more cuts with GME, what's the answer?
Well, I think we have to start with advocacy in a big way because the lawmakers have the keys to the bank, as it were, and we have to make a very coherent argument for why GME funding continued support is actually very important. Now, in addition to the obvious federal advocacy that we do pretty well, we also have to do state advocacy because Medicaid funds have a revenue source through the states. Now, one of the very important aspects of the advocacy effort is going to be that this has to be a very organized group effort of the entire medical profession, starting with the entities like the Association of American Medical Colleges to American Medical Association, professional societies like American College of Cardiology, because we need to project a single voice so that the GME funding is not felt to be some sort of an internal, issue within medical community. We also have to do a fair bit of work to restructure our education so that the expected greater accountability by the funding agencies is met. That's actually easy to do, but traditionally at the level of the cardiovascular fellowship education, we spend a little bit of less time traditionally in those aspects of the expectations of the community and the society at large about prevention, coordination of care, safety, quality improvement, and so on. So this is doable. At the same time, the time is fairly short insofar as the effects are actually going to be felt very quickly.
So at the present time, the waters are rough and they're only going to get rougher.
Correct. But I'm basically an optimist. The cardiovascular community is really very resourceful, and we are a very forward-thinking group, and we can actually do it. But then, we need to really engage in a several very specific and thoughtful actions right now.
We have some of the brightest minds in medicine, so I would hope that we can come up with some solutions.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
So again, we're at the Cardiovascular Summit here in Las Vegas for 2014. Please see our coverage in CSWN as well as online. For CardioSource World News, I'm Executive Editor Rick McGuire.